Here is an orange ink by Lamy Mango. Let's jump straight to the end with my opinion on this ink. The paper I'm using here is a Maruman Mnemosyne Notebook. Without a doubt, this color is the color of mango fruit. And now that I've said something nice about it, I hate 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 it. I hate this ink so damn much. I took notes with a Bic pen. This is like the reason I'm calling it orange because it's mango, but it's like a horribly conceived yellow that they said, well, we've made it, let's put it out. And really not something Lamy normally does in putting out such a shit product. This is so bad. And I know you have to know it because of how short this video is going in, but this is bad. We need to go to Lamy and put their nose in this mistake so they don't make this mistake again. I like orange inks. I even have yellow inks that I enjoy quite a few of them. Not this one. This one is, I mean, to call it a dumpster fire is really crapping on dumpster fires. They're beautiful in comparison to this. I don't even know how well this came through on camera. I know the first bit when I just write the ink's name, you can barely see, and that's my experience with this ink constantly. I can't say if it really, I want to just go on for hours about how bad this ink is, just like this while you watch this, or more or less don't watch this because it's so hard to see. Don't put out an ink when you know it's not good. That's bad. Just, it's so bad. The pen for today is a Sailor Pro Gear. All of the writing samples are done with a Retro 51 P51 with an extra fine nib, a Retro 51 Corsair with a medium nib, a Retro 51 Lincoln with a 1.1 stub. Now that we know my opinion on this ink, let's see how I got there, starting with the first writing sample done on Clairfontaine. Looking at the extra fine nib, this is a train wreck. It's very light, hard to read. It doesn't feather, doesn't spread, I would assume, because you really can't tell. There is some shading, and I know there's some shading because the H's of his and H of hands, the T of white, those are the darkest letters I'm seeing. There's very little to see. It's hard to see in person. I'm hoping the camera does a better job of showing what's being written, but don't be fooled by what the camera shows if it comes through. I won't know until I'm in post. This is horrible, and I hate it. Looking at the medium nib, it is just like the extra fine and just as hateable. There's no feathering and there's no spread. We must assume because you can't see it. There is some shading. You can tell there's some shading because there's letters that you can see, like an HE of them on the first line. To them in is actually the easiest part to read. Like on the second line, thankfully the K came out darker. The rest of it, not so much. Now, I bet you can't guess the word next to like on the second line. That's animal. And then noises. And you really can't. I'm not looking at the writing to know what's there. I'm looking at the original text because this ink is complete shite. Looking at the stub nib, it is a little bit darker than it was with the medium or the extra fine. Thank you. Although still hard to see with no feathering, with no spread by assumption of this being Clairfontaine and how light this is, though we do start to be able to read a little bit of it. Now, the ink doesn't really keep up with the writing. So as you get into the third and fourth line, it lightens up to just like it was with the extra fine and the medium to unreadable. Does it shade? Yeah, there's touches of shading, but let's be honest. If your shit shades, you don't care. And this is shit. looking at the back of the page, I have to apologize for all the cursing that's going on, but I don't know what's about to come out with the last segment. There's no bleeding, there's no ghosting, there was no seeing it on the first side, so there's no surprise you don't see it on the back.
Like most inks, this one comes in a bottle.
This is how the Pilot Custom 823 fits. And here is the Pelican M1000. Here is the ink level when you can no longer fill a Lamy Safari. There is approximately 1 milliliter of ink left.
There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is immediately put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. The one on the right, marked with a D, is let dry for 10 minutes before putting it into water. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. The highlighter is on the top left, pen flush is on the top right, 1/3 bleach solution is on the bottom left, and water is on the bottom right. With over 1,000 inks reviewed, let's take a look at some color comparables. Here is Blackstone Wild Orange. Here is Califolio Cannelle. Here is Diamine Golden Honey. Here is Califolio Orange. While it's nice to see ink in the same color family, I prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Here is a blue ink by Birmingham Pen Company, Smithfield Street Bridge Truss Blue. Here is a brown ink by Private Reserve Chocolate. Here is a green ink by Krishna Gat Green. Here is a purple ink by Platinum Violet. So what nib and pen do I think are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? The paper I'm using here is yellow Rhodia paper.
I'm going to try and give it a minute so that you can see this writing on the yellow paper, if there is seeing writing on the yellow paper. I think this is best used in anything other than a fountain pen, and certainly not your pen. In fact, if you have someone that you really wanted to play a prank on, I suppose you could send them a letter with this ink. I guess, like, if you had an enemy you wanted to declare war on, send someone you hate a bottle of this. It's a kind of a reason I don't have a P.O. box in my description, because I don't need bottles of this. If you sent me a bottle of this, I would probably seek you out. This is horrible. So there's no way to really end this but with a song. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. This ink is complete shit. I can't help it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it.
This is the end, and thanks for watching.